What is up, guys? Welcome back to another one of my Minecraft tutorials, and we're going to look into ID conflicts. So whether you're modding or you have a problem with ID conflicts and you're trying to put a mod back together, you're probably going to get some use out of this video too. But I'm going to try to aim this video more towards modders to give them a good understanding of some things that I'm going to set up for the next videos and stuff. So bear with me, guys. I'm going to fill you in on information that you probably are not aware of. I'm sure you know how to solve these ID conflicts, but there's some advice here that I'm going to give you that's going to set up for my next videos. So first of all, I generated an ID conflict that crashed Minecraft on load. Now sometimes you'll have an ID conflict and you're putting together a custom mod pack, or you're making your own mod and your mod crashes, for example, because it crashes with something that's being overwritten from vanilla Minecraft, and it'll crash on load. In this case, it crashed on load and ID conflicts.txt was generated over here, which we're going to have a look at right away. Other times, it won't crash on load, and if you look in, you got a console right here. If you look, it'll say, something is overwriting conflict. It's already occupied and it's overwriting 257, blah, 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 blah. And, you would know in your mod what you overwrit and why, just by looking at that. So, that kind of an error, you're overwriting something and you shouldn't be, go ahead and change it. It might not cause a crash on load, but, somewhere down the line, maybe as you go to use the item that it's overwriting, it might cause a crash then. And just like the same thing in here, so just because your client loads, it's good to check through your log files. So we got two log files here. We got a mine, as you launch, I'm using a different launcher, but you might be using an FTB launcher. You're gonna have a Minecraft log that loads. You'll have some type of a console going on that looks like this, and you could just type in Control F and then type in overwriting. So basically it's down here, like right here. I hit Control F and then overwriting. Another way to do it, is look in your output client log down here, or if you're running a server, output server log. So you could find the same information in here. So Control F on your keyboard, type in overwriting, and then just hit find. Go to the top and start at the top and see what's going on. So here our first overwriting method is happening, and it's happening from MineFactory Reloaded. This is actually Agrarian Skies. Simulated one thing, and that was this crash here, which we still haven't corrected, and there's a whole bunch of other things that are overwriting that didn't cause a crash. Excuse me. So so how do we fix this? Now, MineFactory Reloaded is overwriting an existing item at 335, and this import right here, and the name is telling me this is a vanilla Minecraft item. So chances are, MineFactory Reloaded knows what it's doing, and it's purposely overwriting this vanilla item bucket of milk on purpose. So, you don't want to mess with this. That's a normal operation for the mod. Let's look at the next conflict, for example. Okay, so this one is from the mod Magic Bees is overwriting an existing item at 1754, a hive from Magic Bees. So by the looks of this, it's actually overwriting itself. So it's doing this on purpose by the looks of it. So you gotta be mindful of what you're actually looking at. Sometimes you will come across things if you're making a custom pack in here, and figure out what is actually overwriting, what's actually going to cause a crash, what isn't, what's intended to be overwritten, and what's not. So to fix your crashes, if you're a mod pack maker, Like I said, go through here, figure out what is a crash, what isn't. I can tell you right now that everything in the Agrarian Skies pack isn't being overwritten by accident. It's all on purpose. So, go on to tweaks and all this. It's purposely overwriting all this stuff. But, if you're making a custom mod pack, that might not be the case. In which case, something like this might have happened. So we could look at the ID conflicts. So let's open this up. Now this is good. I did this for a reason for you mod developers. So you can quickly see the suggested ranges. So another way you could have did this is you could look into like a big mod pack and see what data values aren't being taken. This way, when you go to program, you're not going to be overwriting everybody's data values by default. So you have a method to your madness of when you choose your data value. Now this doesn't pertain to people that are writing mod packs for 1.6.4 and above, I believe, or above 1.6.4. But below that, it's going to pertain to them, I believe. So it's giving you suggested ranges here. So this is awesome. You could have looked in the NEI, figured it out yourself. But this is for blocks, so anywhere in this range, or this range, or the other range. So we got 197 IDs in each one of these to choose from, or 416 here to choose from. So pick a number in between here. So we could start at say 2588, or 2600, and then work up for all our data values for our blocks. Now items is a little bit different. So if you generated, I generated a block problem here. So if you generated an item conflict, it might give you a different suggested range in here for items, because you don't want to put your items down this low. And we'll get into more about why that is maybe in the next video. So how do we solve this? Simple. So 2579 is safe. We can go into our config, and we could either open up open blocks or bibliocraft. So either or. And now instead of looking at the data value, it's good to look at the actual name of the item, because the data value might differ depending on whether it's an item or if it's a block, which I will try to get into more on the next video as well. So let's focus on the name, bear traps, and we'll change bear trap from open blocks. And let's find open blocks config here, and there it is. And if I scroll down a bit, I actually simulated this, so you could change this number right here. So we pick 2579 as your bear trap ID, and change that to 2579 or whatever. I already changed it back to 2550. That's what it was initially at. So I already changed it back. You go ahead and change it to one of these suggested ranges up here, and then work upwards from that number. So that's how you could get a good ID range on when you're working with your mod, because you might be making a mod and might have 100 items. You don't want to be overwriting other people's mods that already existed way before your mod did, or anything like that. You want to be smart, a little bit smart about it. You are going to run into problems just by accident. You can't account for every mod, but the least you can do is go get a big mod pack out there and get the suggested ranges. This way, when somebody downloads your mod that doesn't know how to, and they want to add your mod to their mod pack, for example, they don't have to go through all these problems, because they might try to add it and say, hey, it's not working, and I'm just going to get rid of it. So, do them a favor and do yourself a favor. Pick a data value range, like I just showed you, to find how to find it easier. Or like I said, go in the NEI and manually figure it out for yourself. Some other things we will touch in on here. So this is all solved. You'd save it, change it to the suggested range. Save it. I already changed it. Next time you launched it, it would launch. And just because your client does launch doesn't mean, and you are in the game, doesn't mean it's going to cause a crash afterwards. That's why it's handy to look through the client log to see what your mod might be overwriting. And in the next video, we're going to set up how to change these data values and how to set up a config so that your mod, basically all your data values aren't hard-coded within inside your mod. So for example here, I'm going to simulate, I'm going to overwrite item 1 on an item. So item 1 is actually going to overwrite item 1. Now I can close this off, because I'm going to get into a little bit about suggested ranges here as well. So item 1 is going to overwrite item 1, the data value of item 1. So let's save this, and we'll run this client, and I believe the client will load. Well, let's just load this up. Yeah, it will load, it won't cause a crash, but eventually, as you go to play the game and you go to use the conflicting items, so here is the console, we don't even have to look any further. Here we go, we got the conflict. So instead of pressing Control F, we could have pressed Control F for conflict and find a conflict and search our log file for that, because that's another useful search tool, so you can quickly parse the file quick. Okay, so we're already overwriting a slot. Now you're thinking, well, what's item 1? Item 1 is stone, correct? Right? In Minecraft? Because it should have the data value of 1 right now, so it should be overwriting 1. Okay, so but it's already occupied by an item pickaxe, which is weird. Why is pickaxe at 1? Now this is because it's an item. If this was a block, it wouldn't be overwriting this pickaxe. But because our item is an item, it automatically defaults to 256 plus your 1. So our data value right now would actually be, I believe, 256. So it basically zeroes out at 256. And that's why we're overwriting this data value. So if you went on the internet and you got the data value for item pickaxe, you would figure out exactly, right here, 257 actually. So 256 plus 1. So anytime you want to figure out a data value for your items, so for example, 1000 plus 256 would be 1000, and 256 would be your data value. So another way to demonstrate this will be save it like this, and we'll run the client again. We'll solve the error, pick a different data value. Alright, we'll pick a different data value here, get into the game hopefully sometime today, and I'll have to create a new world because I'm playing with data values. I'll create new world. Okay, so once again, you're probably thinking, hey, our data value is 1000, that's what I gave it. So because this is an item, once again, we gotta go up to 256. So slash give us, why isn't my tab working? Oh, I guess I was lagging. 1256, which should be our data value, and there it is. So whatever you're picking as your data value, add 256 to that, which is going to give you the actual data value. So just add 256. Now, just to look into some more things here on this, just because your item ID worked at that, here's some suggested ranges though that we should look at. So, for example, this is estimated suggested ranges here, not factoring in other mods, of course. Like I just showed you, go through a mod pack or something and figure that out as well. But here it is for a block ID. So a safe range is between 600 and 4,000 around. So after you get above the 5,000 mark, say, your code will simply not work. So if I change this block to 5,500 or somewhere, or 5,000 maybe even, it just won't load because a block cannot go into that data range. It's reserved for 0 to 5,000. The lower 200 range is being taken. So this is a safe range right in there, between 600 to 4,000. Now on the other hand, item IDs, we should bump that up, and we should make this higher, in the 5,000 to 37,000 range. So this is an estimated safe range for item IDs. Now, even though your item ID will work, at 1,000 or whatever in here, when it comes down to making the config and stuff, things are going to get funky. So let's just stick with this, and I'll try to explain it more in the next video when we get into the config as well. So item IDs will go 5,000 up, and then block IDs in between there. So I think that pretty much wraps up this video, guys. Hopefully I didn't babble your ear off too much trying to explain all this.